I started at the IDF when I was 19 years old.
And I've been in the IDF.
You guys decided to go back. Y'all landed in Israel on the 1st.
October
October
1st.
1st, yes.
The Hamas attacks.
It was on October 7th, Saturday morning. You see, this is pure evil.
Like, walk us through your journey to get home. Welcome back to another episode of the Broom Tree Podcast. We have some good friends of ours here with us today. We have an interesting episode for you guys. It's more, I would say, maybe not controversial, but more edgy in today's culture. I was almost a little hesitant to do the episode because once you weigh in on a conversation like this, it can either unite or divide. It very rarely stays the same. But if there's a conversation worth having, it's conversations like that. And so we have some friends of ours here with us today, and kind of want to turn this over to you guys to introduce yourselves, talk a little bit about what we're talking about today, just so to kind of set the stage. We're talking about what's going on in Israel right now. As we're recording this, it's June of 2024. And so there are some things that have happened specifically over the last 8-9 months now, and a lot of debate has been sparked, and workplaces and social media, all sorts of different places like that. And we really just kind of want to weigh in a little bit and get some perspective from some friends of ours who they'll kind of tell you who they are, a little bit about themselves, and then that'll kind of give you an idea of why of anyone to have this conversation. Me and Amanda feel like you guys are the best fit for that. So if you guys want to kind of maybe tell them who you are a little bit.
Ladies first.
Ladies first.
Ladies first.
My name is Alona. This is my husband, David. I'm used to doing it like that. We're originally from Israel, but very proud American citizens. And the reason we're here today to talk about Israel is a funny thing is that we've been here for 6 years, right? And we decided that we finally need to go meet our friends and family in Israel. Let's take a vacation because we feel like really burnt out.
Right.
And we landed in Israel on October 1st. And that's when a lot of things changed.
Yeah.
So before we even dig into that, I'm also a musician.
Okay.
And David and I do music together. We're what's called blue-collar hard workers.
Yeah.
Enjoying and experiencing our American dream here.
Yeah. Yeah, that was your last song. Isn't that what it was titled, was American Dream, right?
My American Dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking about our journey.
Basically.
Yes.
Yeah. So y'all came from Israel to the States, but you landed
Kansas.
In Topeka, Kansas.
So you're kind of in the Midwest at first.
Yeah.
And then you guys would transition to where we're at now.
Yeah.
Colorado.
But,
We've been to Colorado for a few more years.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we
went all in. I mean, Kansas, Colorado.
Talk a little bit about the transition from, well, first, what part, when you say you lived in Israel, I know Israel's not super massive, obviously, like the U.S. is, but were you in northern Israel, southern? Like, where did you guys live when you were over there?
So I'm pretty sure if I made the right calculation, so Israel, it's basically a quarter of Tennessee.
Okay, so small.
That's very small.
Very small.
And very diverse. I mean, you got mountains, you got the Mediterranean Sea, you have volcanoes, you have desert, you have overcrowded cities, you have small settlements,
Yeah.
You have the Dead Sea, you have some rivers there.
Mhm.
So it's a very diverse, even though it's very, very small country, it's very diverse, the landscape, and also culturally very diverse.
Yes.
You got all the major religions there. But we were both, I would say, from the north.
Okay.
Yeah.
Different towns, but we were both from the same. We even went to the same high school, but I was senior and she was.
Yeah.
Because in Israel, it's from 7th grade to 12th grade. It's in the same high school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's different.
So I
it's
was
kind of
7th
different.
grade.
Yeah, and I was on my way out, basically.
Okay.
On my way to boot camp.
What was that transition like, moving from Israel to the U.S.? Was it kind of like a culture shock at first, or did you kind of know already what you were getting yourself into a little bit?
I think it depends.
Well,
I mean,
So I'm American by birth.
Okay.
My parents were here, and when they were here, I was born, and my sister is also American. So, I mean, my first years as a baby, the first culture that I was introduced to was actually the American culture. So
Okay.
there's a lot of me that is 100% American in culture.
Hmm.
And so I actually moved to Israel when I was 6 years old, and I had to get used to learning the real Israeli
Right.
culture. And now we decided to go back and now reintroduce ourselves to the American culture when we were older. So
Was there a reason that you guys moved to Israel? I feel like that transition from the U.S. to Israel isn't as common as maybe the transition from Israel back. So what was it that made you guys move over there when you were young?
well, my dad, his job, they sent him for like 3 years,
Mm.
and then he went back, and then for another 3 years. So we knew that it's a temporary move. It
Ah,
wasn't.
okay.
He
Yeah,
was just born here, basically.
Gotcha. Okay.
I
Okay.
was just born here.
Okay.
So
Got lucky.
And then you guys met. Did you guys meet in high school? Then you guys were.
no, we
He
we
would not look at me. in high
Okay. So
school.
how did y'all's paths cross?
so I was a
Head of security.
security manager at a very big nightclub,
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
and she came to work for us just for one night, do something, and that's how we met. And some of her family went to high school with me, so he kind of introduced me to her, and yeah, I think that's how we start talking, and we ended up dating for a while, breaking up, dating for a while.
Okay.
For a while, 6 years, I think.
Yeah, we've been on and off for a while, and eventually,
Okay.
uh, eventually we knew it's
Time to get married and
yeah,
settle down a
it was
little
the
bit.
real deal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So did y'all get married? Y'all were still in Israel when you got
yeah,
married. How
Yes.
long after y'all got married before you moved to the
two
States?
years exactly.
Okay. And
We
2
know
years
that. Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
and y'all have a daughter together. I won't share her
Hmm.
name, but y'all have a daughter. And
Hmm.
was she? I'm trying to do the math in my head.
She was born in Colorado.
She was born in Colorado. Okay.
Yes.
Were you? Did y'all know you were having her when you moved, or did you move
Oh,
before you ever even started to try and have kids?
So when we moved here, we weren't trying, I think,
Okay.
but with time, we had some difficulties, but eventually,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
So what was it? The reason I asked that because I think some people might think like because you wanted to start a family, that's why you came to the state. What was y'all's reason for moving to the U.S. from Israel?
you want me to start with that? I mean, I would assume we have very similar
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
thoughts on that, but I would say at the same time it's a little bit kind of different.
Mm.
I'll give you just a little bit of my background. So I started at the IDF when I was 19 years old. So basically, fresh out of high school, I had 5 days between graduation and boot camp.
And for those who maybe don't know that,
Israeli Defense
okay,
Forces, the
okay,
Israeli military. Did 3 years in the combat infantry there in Golani Brigade. That's what it's called.
okay,
Um, there is no peacetime in Israel, so in between wars, in between stuff. 2005, I was honorably discharged, and pretty much everybody goes through military for the most part.
mm,
Did a few more things, got into security. That's how I met Alona. But then in 2010, I joined the Israeli police force in a specialized unit. And I think about a year into that, I ended up in pretty much on the border with the West Bank
mm-hmm,
and in what's called a triangle. It's a major 9 Arab Muslim cities. So I'm
okay,
pretty much familiar with the Arabic culture, the language,
yeah,
um, being on the West Bank, we did part of was crime, but part of it was terror too. So we would see both because of the proximity to the border and just because of the nature
yeah.
of the beast there. And I think my last assignment was basically lieutenant, captain, code, whatever. It's kind of different. The structure over there is kind of different from here.
Mm-hmm.
It's
So it's called chief inspector. It's 2 stars. I don't know.
Sounds fancy.
No, not really. I think I was 32 when I graduated OCS, officer candidate
Okay.
school, and we we just got married. So I graduated my OCS. She took care of all the wedding stuff and everything, and we decided that we're gonna take a honeymoon. We got some extra cash from all the family and
Mm-hmm.
friends that were on our wedding, so we had 550 people on our wedding.
Oh my
Yeah,
Yeah, it
goodness.
was a
yeah,
huge
and it
wedding.
wasn't. And by Israeli standards, it's not a.
That's what I was gonna
Yeah.
ask. Is
It's
that
not.
yeah?
It's
My
not.
Okay.
sister had way more.
Yeah, she's like her sister like
Wow.
750, so it was
Wow.
even bigger than ours. But it's kind of like it's a very warm, family oriented culture in Israel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very, very
What
that.
is just while I'm thinking about this because I'm thinking about I've only ever been to American weddings. Our wedding
Yeah.
wasn't even 100 people,
Yeah.
and we were in and out in I think like 3 hours, 3.5 hours
Oh.
tops.
No,
Is it like an all day?
it's an
kinda
all day
thing?
thing.
Okay.
So basically, it goes into the night. I think we ended up like around 3 a.m. People are
Oh
then
my goodness.
Yeah, it's like a nightclub.
it looks like
That's
it's
wild.
just people just having fun, plenty of alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll send you a
Um,
video so you can look
Yeah,
at it.
it's
It's
wild.
actually on YouTube.
It's wild. It's
Wow.
wild. I got some friends from my side, from her side, family. I mean, it's dancing and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot
Yeah.
of fun. Though it's very happy. Those are very happy days,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you're surrounded by a lot of family. So, like I said, we ended up saving some money from that wedding, and I think it's always been on her mind because she always talked to me about like, hey, one day I would love to move to the U.S. I've never
Yeah.
been here before. I've been to Australia, I've been to Europe, I've been to Thailand, I've been to many other places, never the U.S. Um, so I was like, all right, let's plan a month honeymoon and let's just go and explore the U.S.
Yeah.
We're both into country music, um, so our first trip was actually to Nashville.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so we landed in Nashville. We went to the Bonnaroo.
The
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Happy Roo.
Happy Roo.
Yeah, baby.
Was it 2016? I
I
think
think so.
Okay.
something like that. So we spent a month here, been through several different states and cities and everything. But um, even though eventually we moved to Kansas, we always knew we were gonna move to Tennessee. That was we always wanted because of um, other reasons, which is citizenship and the whole process. We decided
Yeah.
to start somewhere else, but
Yeah.
we always knew we were gonna end up here in Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then y'all landed here, what I guess 2021, 2022, somewhere
Mhm.
around there.
Yep.
In
Yeah.
Tennessee.
Yep.
Yeah.
About 2 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
wasn't-
you just back to the question. I guess it was just you guys just always knew at some point you would want you. It sounded like you had a heart maybe to want to move back to the
Yes.
States, and you came and fell in love with it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
The
Yeah.
opportunities.
All my childhood memories. I mean, as a kid, I had so much fun here. I mean,
mhm.
only good memories. And then I went back to Israel. And I mean, as a teenager, you remember your childhood days. And I always felt like there's more opportunity here. Israel is very small. And I felt like music wise, and since I sing also in English, I felt like I was limited. And so I always wanted to experience how it's going to look like when I actually sing in front of an American crowd. And
Yeah.
like, I just wanted to experience it. And my whole life, I told my parents, I'm going to go back. And even when we started dating, the last time when we got back together, I was like, yeah, I'm going to move in within a month by myself. And I don't know, he decided to stay. He was like, um, I'm going to invest every day that I can, even if I know that you're leaving. Well, in that month, we fell in love, and eventually we
Yeah.
made the move together.
There you
But
go.
yeah,
Mhm.
All right. And
Yeah.
so y'all landed in the States officially, what, 2017?
17. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, fast forward fall of last year, fall of 2023.
Mhm.
You guys decided to go back.
Yeah.
I quit my job. I was about to start some different things. And we haven't been into Israel in 6 years.
Yeah.
Exactly 6 years.
Yeah.
Because we left on October, 6 years prior.
Yeah.
So we had some money saved up, which my grandma left me. But we decided to go take like I think it was like a 2 week
I think it
vacation.
was 2 weeks because
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
I
2 weeks.
remember my wife was doing some house sitting, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
we found out pretty quickly that this is a sidebar, but it's funny. I was actually telling our friends last night about this. You guys talk to your dogs in Hebrew.
Yes.
And so the first night we were over there, they just were totally ignoring us on everything we were asking them to do.
Yeah.
But no, so she's house sitting. You guys were going to be gone
For about 2 weeks.
2 weeks or so. And
Yeah.
you said earlier that was y'all landed in Israel on the 1st.
October 1st.
October
October
1st.
1st.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm going to reference my notes here for just a second. Because the Hamas attacks
Was on October 7th.
October
Saturday
7th
morning.
Yeah.
is
Yes.
kind of when they pinned as like the go
Yeah.
time for that. So you guys have been over there right at about a week or so
Yeah.
visiting
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you mentioned earlier, there's never a time in Israel where there's not conflict of some sort.
No, it's
Right.
it's
But
a
I think
constant thing.
for us over here in America, we only see moments like what happened on that day, right? Like we just kind of forget. And we even talked about this.
Yeah.
It happened on October 7th, and by Christmas, almost nobody over here was even talking about it anymore, you know? But I remember everything was going off. We were kind of like, we knew you guys were over there. We didn't really know what was going on,
Right.
Specifically with y'all.
Yeah.
And then one of the first things we found out was that all you really said was y'all probably weren't gonna be back on time.
Right.
So for us to keep watching your dogs, and we were like, we'll watch your dogs forever. Like they're cool. But kind of walk us through. So you wake up October 7th.
Yeah, I remember that. Pretty
What's
well.
happening?
Oh.
If you don't
Saturday
mind.
morning.
Well,
We were staying at her parents' house. We just came back from the south. So
Yeah.
her family lives pretty much on the northern border.
Okay.
That happened, I would say, closer to the southern border.
yeah.
With Egypt, not really, because I mean it is, but it isn't. So Gaza sits right on the south of Israel.
Mhm.
Not this. It's like that.
It's like the bottom left corner,
Yeah,
kind of, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Yes.
right on the Mediterranean Sea.
Yes.
So we were in that area up to Thursday. Then Thursday night we came back. Friday we went to see some friends in what's called the center of Israel.
Mhm.
And we came back on Friday night. And she woke me up on Saturday, and she wakes me up,
Oh yeah.
and she's like, "There are terrorists inside of Israel." I was like, "Yeah, like any other day. Like there's
Right.
Yeah, it
there's
was like
nothing new."
7:30.
She's like, "No. This is something else." I was like, "Okay." So I wake up, open my eyes, we see the news, and we see those white Toyota trucks,
Mhm.
and
It wasn't even on the news yet. It was on the phone. My sister sent me a video and said there are terrorists inside of Israel. And just to clarify, when he says north and south, Israel is maybe
now with the new highway, it's just I mean, it's a matter of
from
2 hours, 3 hours. You're
yes,
there.
Yeah.
from north to south. You can it's going to take you 5 to 6 hours. When we were there 6 years ago, but now with the new roads,
It's a matter
everything
of
is like
3 hours.
3 to
Yeah.
4
and
hours.
it's not like here where if you saw something maybe happening down in Texas, you'd be like, oh, well, that's Texas.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
that's whatever.
no.
This is like,
Yeah.
no, this is happening right down the street.
It's not a
from
matter
us.
of days. It's a matter of hours
Yes.
Yeah.
and transportation. If
Right.
you're, because some of them were on trucks, some of them were on motorcycles. I mean, with
They
a
can be
motorcycle, you
anywhere.
can be in 2 hours pretty much anywhere in Israel.
Yeah. Yeah. And I kind of want to, I meant to say this for a second ago, so I'll butt in for just a second. When we're talking about this, we talked about this right before I hit record. But so many people now, I feel like you're almost forced to pick a bucket. Am I pro-Israel or am I pro-Palestine? And we were talking about this just beforehand, that I think majority of people, and maybe that's a wrong statement to make, but I'll say it anyway. I think the majority of people do naturally lean more with Israel, at least as far as our audience goes. But a lot of them maybe don't know enough about what's going on over there to feel confident in having the conversation. So the point of the episode today is to really just hear y'all's account of not only what happened while y'all were over there, but y'all's perspective on the whole conversation.
Yeah.
To maybe educate people, not even necessarily to try and convince them to be pro-Israel, but just tell them the reality of what's going on. Because we were talking about this before, where even myself trying to do some research on this topic, it's hard to find unbiased news anywhere.
I don't think you can.
It's so difficult. And so for a lot of people, they go, I think more people land in the middle, not because they don't love the people of Israel, or they don't love the people who live, in Gaza and what the Palestine area right there, but they just don't know enough.
Right.
And I don't want to weigh in on something and start a conversation, and certainly don't want to make myself look like an idiot or offend somebody. You know what I mean? And so when we talk about this, I think it's important we set up front. We're not saying that any one side is just totally has gotten it all right and is made all the right decisions or responded the right way or anything like that. But when you say they, I want to make it pretty clear for our audience. You guys are in northern Israel, and Hamas has essentially is bum rushed the southern border or the border of Gaza, right?
So the Israel basically surrounded by, so on the north, so Mediterranean Sea. I mean, you got Italy and other places that's kind of like further away. But if you're looking on Israel and looking on the north, it's going to be Lebanon.
Okay.
Not the city, but the actual country.
Yeah.
So Lebanon. On the northern border, which I served for a while, you have Hezbollah. Then you go a little bit to the right, it's Syria.
Okay.
Then you go to the east, it's going to be Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan, you also have the West Bank, which is the Palestinian, the PLO, I think it's called. Ashraf, that's what it's called. They're sitting on the West Bank. Then you go down, you have Egypt right on the south. And then you have a small piece which is Gaza. Yeah. That's what people refer to as Palestine, I would assume.
Yeah.
So right now, whatever happens is, or if it's been happening for years and years, there's nothing new to it. You have Hezbollah from the north shooting rockets, RPGs, and some sort of like armed drones by the hundreds on a civilian population every day, every minute of basically since October 7th. That was prior to that. We grew up in bomb shelters our whole childhood.
Wow.
On the West Bank, you have people are shooting. So if you would think about it, let's pick a city. Let's say we're going to take Nashville. So let's split Nashville into East and West. So let's say people on the east of East Nashville are shooting into West Nashville. That's what the border is. The border, it's just a fence. And there are some IDF there, Israeli Defense Forces, some border patrol, some special units, whatever. But they're shooting, and they're constantly going into Israel and committing acts of terror. Gaza started. I remember that because when I got discharged in 2005, this is when Gaza became Gaza. Prior to that, there were Jewish Israeli settlements, small towns within Gaza, the Gaza Strip. 2005, there was and those are facts, and people can fact check me on that. Feel free. 2005, the Israeli government decided to make some sort of a peace treaty with. At that time, it wasn't Hamas; it was somebody else. I cannot remember.
Was it
was
the PLO? Was it the
no.
Palestinian?
Yeah, that was the PLO.
Okay.
They were there. So, the Israeli government sent police officers and soldiers by force removed Jewish Israeli civilians, citizens of Israel, from that strip, tore their houses down, and spread those people across Israel. Some say that those people still don't have homes.
Yeah.
Tore everything down, and then Hamas came into Gaza Strip and basically fought PLO, won, and took over.
So Israel's got some sort of presence in Gaza.
They used
2005 comes along. They remove
decided,
their own people, and they basically
yeah,
say like, "Hey, this land is all yours. Do whatever you
Yes.
want with it." And
Yes.
immediately they were overrun
I don't
by
know how
Hamas.
immediate
yeah.
that was, but
It was
the
Pretty
idea was
quickly
pretty
soon
the
quick.
idea
after.
is you
It
want
was
to
pretty
live, you
quick.
want your own place. Here,
Here's your own place.
do
Defend it
something.
yourself. Do whatever you
Do
want with it.
something good with it.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
it's all
live.
yours now. Do whatever ends up happening here.
Yes.
You almost absolve yourself from responsibility of that because you're saying, I'm not a part of this anymore.
So
Like,
even the West Bank split into three different. It's called A, B, and C. If you
Right.
go back and once again, people can fact check me on that. There was I think there was that was where the Oslo treaties.
mm-hmm,
So they split those into three. One, it's like three different tiers. One tier, it's only PLO. The other tier, it's IDF and PLO. And the third, it's Jewish settlements, but there's still IDF there. It's confusing as hell. It's really hard to understand that. I've been there several times. You drive in one wrong turn, you're gonna end up in a very bad spot, which by the way happened in 2001 when they lynched a few IDF reserve soldiers.
you were over there and you responded to that.
No, I was still in high school. I joined the IDF in 2002, so I just saw the aftermath. So
Okay.
I wasn't the West Bank
Yeah.
in 2003. Those places right now they are fighting what's called Janin. I've been there and all those areas. Um, Even if you go back on the history, and once again, people should fact check me on that. 1948, the Israel basically became a country.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Within days, the Israeli Independence War
Mm-hmm.
broke out. So basically, all the surrounding countries, which I already named, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt, all of them attacked Israel, which Israel was basically barely had an
Mm-hmm.
IDF. There were some militias back then, Etzel, Lehi, Agana, those just turning molded into something that was like a military.
Mm-hmm.
And they fought that war. They won that war.
Mm-hmm.
God knows how, but they did. But the whole point was the UN decided in 48 that prior to that was the Holocaust when
Mm-hmm.
over 6 million people, which those were my people. I'm Polish, half Polish.
Mm-hmm.
They were murdered and slaughtered and burned alive in Germany, and everything that were taken from them
Mm-hmm.
in Germany, Poland, all that area. So the Jews basically were spread everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them moved to the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them moved to Australia. Some of them moved to Israel. Some of them moved to Russia. Some of them moved, I don't even know where. Some to Europe, wherever was left of Europe. And then they start migrating towards that small piece of land which we're talking about. It's a tiny place. Yes, and this is where I think the controversial thing starts. The people that claiming that they are Palestinians, I would assume those are the people who lived
Mm-hmm.
there. Jews were always there. That's it. They never left completely. They were always there, but it wasn't a country back then. It was what it was. It was there were the Turks, the Turkey, Ottoman.
Mm-hmm.
Then later came the English.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it was a colony of England back
Yeah.
then. They called the place that piece of land and that borders moved several times, and they're probably gonna move again. But it was called Palestina.
So there were Jews in Palestina. There were Christians in Palestina.
There were everybody.
Arabs in Palestina.
Yeah, it was just anyone who was there is now
No.
Palestinian.
They're
Yeah.
Palestinians. It wasn't Palestinians. They were like. So if I'm going back to the Bible, which we both studied in school, and we can use that as the history book, leave religion alone. There was no thing as Palestinians. There were Jews Israelites. They were Jews. There were Judah. All of those. There were the 12 Jewish
Right.
Israeli tribes.
Yeah.
So at some point that was Judah, and it's still called the West Bank, still called Yehuda v'Shomron. By the way, Ayosh. So the only people that I can think of from the Bible that were anywhere close to that were Plishtim. That's the only people that I can think of. But as far as I know, they're not around.
Yeah.
So they are major Arab countries in all of that area.
Mhm.
People are saying that, I mean, majority of Jordan are Palestinians. But Palestine, or the whole concept of Palestine, came in the 90s with a person called Yasser Arafat. He was the one who brought up the whole thing, the kafia. I don't know if you saw that, the black and white, the kafia.
Mm-hmm.
He brought up the whole idea of wearing the kafia, and that turned into the whole thing. He's the one who made peace treaty with the prime minister of Israel, who was, by the way, assassinated later, but his name was Yitzhak Rabin. Yasser Arafat and Yitzhak Rabin did a treaty, and they decided to divide that. So basically, those people were offered multiple times to have a country of their own.
Mhm.
Two countries for two different
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And there is nothing new to that. I remember growing up, they wanted to give them the Golan. Golan was the Syrian border, which I was too young for that, but I was on the border. I never fought Syrians, but Israel, prior to me being a soldier, they fought. My brigade fought there. So there is a lot of conflict, and I don't know if I should know that, how many wars Israel had
Yeah.
since 48.
Well, and I watched a couple of videos the other day on it. Again, go back to like it's hard to know what's factual and not. But they broke down from 48 to the 2005 withdrawal from
Yeah.
Gaza that you talked about. I think it was five separate times the Israeli government offered a form of peace to what we are calling now the Palestinians, the people who lived in Gaza and who wanted a piece of the West Bank, and they kept offering. And each time the offer for this amount of land continued to grow,
Which is small, by the way. It's a small.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: it's a small country. There's only much you can give.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you that the Israeli young couples are having a hard time buying a house, because we're talking about a house that here would probably $250,000-$300,000. Over there is going to cost you $4 to $5 million.
Yeah.
This is insane. So
Yeah.
they don't have much land.
Well, and I bring that up because we talk about like this whole argument. I think bases around who is there first, who actually has the right to the land, and that's where this argument comes from, right?
I would say look in the Bible.
Yeah, there's
if they want to bring that up.
If you're pro-Israel, then you're like, okay, the Palestinians just need to leave. And the pro-Palestinian argument is, well, Israel came and conquered them.
Who is Israel? And,
right.
and that's my question: is who are those Israelis that came?
But this argument has been there for years. I mean, whatever happened right now,
there was
it's
peace.
just so much different.
Yeah.
But yeah, up to October 6th, you had
There was peace with
Well,
Gaza.
so-
And
I
I
think
mean, whether one side is right or wrong, we still acknowledge the right to have their own place.
Yeah.
That's why we gave them Gaza. So whether we agree on who came first or not,
I think it's
still wanted them to live and have a life.
No,
And that's,
for sure. And
that's
I think
what
where
Israel
people-
is all about.
Where maybe the ignorance comes in, and ignorance is just lack of knowledge. It's not insulting anybody. When the ignorance comes in for a lot of Americans is we hear this thing of, for them, it really boils down to, okay, who is there first? Who's oppressing the other one, right? Because you have people who
Nobody's
say
oppressing.
that Israel's oppressing Palestine. You have people that say that Palestine is fighting against, trying to oppress Israel. And I think when we talk about this, and the argument I hear a lot that comes up is, well, why doesn't Israel just leave them alone? And I bring that up because of what you just said.
They did.
In 2005, they
They
did leave
did.
them alone.
They
And
did.
5 separate times since they quote unquote arrived in 1948 when all of the formalities began happening. 5 separate times Israel has tried to say, like, let's shake hands and be done with it. And all 5 times,
Yeah.
it's been denied. And so whether that pushes you pro-Israel or pro-Palestine, it's just the facts. The
It's a
reality
fact.
is
Yeah.
Israel has offered several times. We know of at least 5. And each time it's been more land, and like the ante's gone up where Israel said, okay, we'll
Right.
give you more. Here's a little bit more. And every
There's not
time,
just land.
and
So they
yeah.
are providing medical help
Mm-hmm.
to those people. They are providing the electricity. They are providing the water.
Yeah.
They're providing everything.
They're letting them come in and work
By
in
the way,
Israel.
and then go back
That's
home.
how they
and,
got
and
a
go
lot
back
of the
home.
information
So those
to
people,
make
and
this attack.
once again, I can say it from my personal experience, working on the West Bank for about 8 years, I've seen so-called Palestinians every day by the hundreds.
Yeah.
They come in. By the way, they jump fences. They go into this because they don't have the right whatever papers. They still go in and out. So they coming, making money, not paying any taxes because everything is it's all cash
Yeah.
and go back.
Yeah.
So they taking money, not paying taxes, going back to West Bank, to Gaza. By the way, we had people from Gaza. We had people from Gaza coming into Israel, committing crimes, stealing cars, selling drugs, assassins. I mean, you name it. All of it. Committing terror. All of that happened. So there is nothing new. So I think that the fact that people are talking about being oppressed, I think it's nobody looks at it that way over there. Like there is the oppression is it's not a thing. It's a matter of like you can have a nice good life because if you look in the Gaza Strip, if you pull up Google Maps and you look up at it on October 6th, they have beautiful buildings, they have nice houses, they got a beautiful piece of Mediterranean Sea. There was not a single soldier pushing that boundary. They had the border. Nobody was messing with them. The IDF was sitting right on the border. Nothing else.
Yeah.
They decided to start that war. And here's the thing. And it's a hard thing to say, and people can criticize me, and it's fine. Unless you've been to actual war, unless you've seen actual war, unless you've seen what it does to people, it's very easy. Sit back in your nice house and criticize those people without understanding what those people, because the decisions are horrible.
Yeah.
The decisions are hard, and that's what people don't understand. I've done it. I've done it. I've raided those houses. I've arrested those people. I did not enjoy doing that. Yeah. I was 19 years old. My friends were 19, 18 years old. We lost friends. We didn't like it. We wanted. I would rather go and do different things, but we don't have a choice because the thing is, if we're not gonna go and defend, we're all gonna perish, and it's simple.
So one of the things I want to ask then, we talk about the conflict that arose October 7th of last year. It primarily spouted out from Gaza.
Yeah, 100%.
I want to make it clear for people who are listening, there is a difference between people who lived in Gaza and people involved with Hamas, right? And I do think there are innocent people that are caught in that crossfire, right? So when we say people from Gaza, it'd be no different than saying everyone in Tennessee all belongs to the same cluster of people, right?
100%.
It was 2005, Israel withdrew. There was this group of people there, and then maybe if there were people of Hamas already there, Hamas came in and used that as kind of like a...
But they were also recruited. So here's the thing. Hamas is not a different... They're not aliens. They didn't come from Mars.
No, right.
They came. Right. So they recruited. The same thing as I was recruited.
Right.
To serve in the IDF. They recruited guys my age.
Well, they recruit them early on, even as kids. They start really early to brainwash. But I would just add a few notes. Mm-hmm. Regarding the oppressed and oppressor. Israel has Christians, Muslims, Arab Muslims, Druze, Jewish. All religions live in Israel. So when we say pro-Israel.
Have
You're
Hindus, they got a Buddhists, they got
Yes.
everybody.
It's not just pro-Jew.
No.
It's
Yeah.
not just Jews. So there are Muslims fighting this war. There were actually Muslims that were kidnapped and
Yeah.
killed on October 7th.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when they came in, and when I say they, I say Hamas, the terror organization. Unfortunately, they're not the only ones that came in. You had kids coming in
Yeah.
and
There are
beheading
videos there.
babies
Yeah.
and beheading bodies.
I mean, I can
Now-
go into that. Like,
Well, so I think one of the things, and I don't want to cut you off, but I think you're onto the next thing I wanted to talk about, which was you talked about earlier about how like there's so much going on over there that we don't know about, and we see headlines like I saw one the other day that said the Israeli side of this war has killed this many women or children. But to your point, we don't know how accurate that number is, but two, if Hamas is quite literally using women and children not just to attack, but as some form of human defense.
oh, they are.
you
I'm telling
know?
you from my experience. They've done it 20 years ago.
Yeah.
We've seen it.
They're using their own people, elderly, babies, kids, as their human shield.
Hospitals,
So when I
schools.
hear even the term freedom fighters, that is not a fighter. If you're hiding behind kids
Yeah.
and your own people, you're not a fighter. That's
Yeah.
a cowardly thing to do. And when they came into Israel to attack, they did not attack soldiers. I mean, they did kill a lot of soldiers, but they aimed towards babies, innocent, elderly, women, and they didn't stop there. It's not just killing.
Killing. There's
It
things
was so
worse than death.
sadistic.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm going into detail
Yeah.
is because people, until they hear what they did, I mean, tying a woman into a tree, cutting her breast, and violating every part of her body, that is not a human being
Yeah.
that does something like that. So when we talk about two sides,
Yeah.
I don't even think the two sides that everybody is talking about are the actual two sides that are fighting, because the two sides is good, is humanity against evil.
Yeah.
Evil people that use their own people. And what Israel is doing right now is good for Israel. But you know what? If you want a future for the kids in Gaza that are brainwashed from a very early age, we're actually, if we defeat Hamas, these kids might stand a chance. But if we leave and stop everything right now, they will
Yeah.
not have a chance. They will be brainwashed and they will be the next
Yeah.
Hamas.
Or whatever next trend is going to be.
Yes.
So I want to talk about two things that you just brought up there. The first thing I want to bring up is, and if you don't want to go here, we don't have to go here. But from your side, specifically you, David, having to battle against that, do you feel like that's impacted your daily life even now? How do you deal with that? Do you deal with it? I mean, like, what does that look like for you as far as, like, you said earlier, you almost felt like there isn't a choice. Like they needed you. You when you're over there, if you're able, you need to go defend. Like you felt like you needed to go be a part of the IDF, which is totally, I think that's totally honorable and right. But now here you are 6 years removed from it, seeing the things you've seen, probably being put in situations where you had to make a decision you didn't want to make. And you don't have to get into the details of those unless you want to. But just now trying to live a quote unquote normal life now. Like I get to go to work and back every day and I don't have to think about all the things that you have to think about, the things that you've seen. How do you handle that?
You just don't stop.
Okay.
I think that's the only thing that helps me. Just keep going, keep doing things. It's not as much as I have to do with it. I mean, my internal battle is a little bit different, because when we were there, on our vacation, when October 7th happened, my first instinct was to go, and I basically start making phone calls from friends to from reserve to guys still in the police force. I've been away for 6 years, so it was like, man, like we can't put you on anything. So I just decided to basically go and volunteer for a reserve.
Yeah.
So where her parents live, they live right on the northern border, 8 kilometers from that. So I joined their response team. I put a uniform, old dusty uniform, and M16 from the 70s probably, because that's all they had back
Yeah.
then. And
Yeah.
and we start doing whatever we could just to make sure that we can keep our family
Yeah.
safe there. So for me, like I said, the battle is a little bit different, and there are guys that have done so much more than I did, so much more. They keep doing, and they're older than me. I'm 40. They're even older than me, and they keep fighting. And
Yeah.
some of them I'm proud to call my friends. And it's just the reality, man. Like,
Do you ever battle with, I think they call it survivor guilt,
hundred
that
percent,
feeling of
100%,
I'm here?
100%.
What do you do with that?
You try to hold on to what's really important, which is my wife, my daughter, and the life that I'm trying to build myself right now. But I think, luckily for some people still over there, they're still in the chase. So I didn't have too many things going on while I was there, because I was just, you just don't you just don't stop.
Yeah.
The problem starts when you stop stopping, and you kind of have too much time to think. And
Well, I remember when y'all got back, I don't know if maybe it was a week or 2 weeks, however long y'all got back, and we came over to have dinner with y'all one night, and the our wives were inside doing whatever. You and me were sitting over by the fire pit, and I could tell you had that like 1,000 yard
yeah,
stare. Like, we were cool to hang out, but you could
yeah,
tell like something was weighing on you. And then Alona, you had shared with Amanda kind of where he was feeling about maybe feeling a little guilty about coming back.
100%.
Um, we're guys, so we didn't get into it out there. We were just grilling burgers and having a good time or whatever. But
Veggie burgers.
yeah, which were amazing, by the way. Well, we talk about that all the time. But no, I think that's a real thing, and I think we bring that up because there are probably a lot more people, I would think, than we care to admit. I don't know. I doubt many have the military side that you have, but you do see people coming to the U.S. as refugees looking for safety. And much like you guys, when y'all came back from your trip, you still had family left over there.
Yeah.
And so me and my wife were talking about that, about like the relief of hearing that you guys were able to get out, but then also the weight of like you are leaving behind, parents, brothers and sisters,
That's the hardest
grandparents, like
part.
whoever's over there.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part, because
Do you deal with that at all with your family still being? Or I'm assuming you still have some of your family over there as
oh,
well.
she's got a huge family.
Yeah.
All my
She's got a huge
family are in the north side of Israel. And now the north side is also on fire because of Hezbollah that
hmm
joined it.
And we're not
And
even hearing about that over here in the
Yeah.
States.
yeah, so like just yesterday they had 200 and something. It's a holiday right now in Israel.
hmm
200 and something just
100 missiles.
missiles
Wow.
just shot at Israel. I mean, just talking to my mom and knowing that they're just terrified and just
Or the
sitting in a
attack from
bunk.
Syria that came.
Not Syria,
Hey,
Iran.
Iran.
The attack from Iran. I mean, I saw my sister and my mom just like crying, not knowing how this is going to end.
Yeah.
I mean,
They have
Israel
kids.
is doing a good job defending their citizens right now, all their citizens.
The Arab Muslims too.
The Arab
By
Muslims
the
too,
way.
the people, even
Yeah.
the ones that are against Israel and live in Israel.
They're
I mean, they're
still-
protecting them too. And even now that they're going into Gaza, Israel, and I've been in the IDF and David has been in the IDF, and I know how hard they're working to navigate
Yeah.
through the citizens. And just, I mean, it's not like you can look at a person and say, oh, this is Hamas and
can't.
this is a
Which is
civilian.
the second thing I was going to bring up. So I'm glad you said that. Was I think a big moral thing that a lot of people land in, even if they're not quote unquote pro Palestine, there are some things that have happened that you look at Israel and you go, was that the right move? What do you say to people who maybe have that thought of like, you said it perfectly. It's hard. You can't just walk in there and go, which side are you with? And then they'll just tell
You
you
don't
like,
have
oh, I'm a
time.
bad guy or oh, I'm a good guy. They're using women and children
Mm-hmm.
as decoys or
They're in
human
plain
shields,
clothes.
you know?
They're in plain clothes. You can't
Um,
tell who you're shooting
and so
at.
you hear headlines like, one I heard the other day was, Israel just bombed a particular area and they just dropped a bomb and whoever was there, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
One, you don't know if that's true or not, but two, what do you say to maybe people who hear that and they go, well, that's not right either? What do you say to them?
So, first of all, do some more research. Don't get your information from TikTok. That's the first thing that I would say.
Fair.
Because, like in that specific scenario that you said, Israel targeted something very specific.
Mm-hmm.
What actually blew the whole place off
Was an
was
armory. They had
armory that Hamas had.
so they had missiles and everything else inside of
Yes.
a tunnel or inside something,
Mm-hmm.
and that
Yes.
that triggered that. Which
Yes.
they, by the way, didn't know that because there is no way for
Yeah.
them to know it.
Yeah.
Gaza is it's all tunnels. There are videos right now. You can see those tunnels.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
ride with a semi inside of it.
Yeah.
But on the outside, it looks like a normal city.
You don't know that it's
And
there.
then you go inside those tunnels. You
Yeah.
don't know where it's at.
Yeah.
And where's the 120 hostages that's still there?
I mean,
Yeah.
and that's the biggest thing. I think, is it today that I read that Hamas declined the offer, but and
There we
and
go.
remember, these are evil people that slaughtered babies and
Mm-hmm.
elderly and civilians. But they still have hostages that they will not release. And I mean, what do people expect Israel to do? Just sit there and be defenseless? I mean, they go
Yeah.
back and they fight back to bring back the hostages
Yeah.
because these are their citizens, and I imagine that every country will fight for their citizens.
Yeah.
As they
But
should.
as they do it, they try to avoid as much as they can
Yeah.
harming any innocent children, women. But even the 4 hostages that they just released last week, the people that held 3 of the hostages was a doctor
And a journalist.
and a journalist
So-called.
that actually has a 503 or like a nonprofit organization here in the States. So, I mean, regular, not, just
Yeah.
civilians, not involved, but then they're keeping the hostages. So it's a very, very hard place to navigate. And again, it's very easy to sit from your couch watching the news and being, oh, this is not proportional. Well, what is
Yeah.
a proportional response
Well, and
to
I think about this
something
all
like
the
that?
time of it's easy. You guys are right on the money of it's easy to sit back and throw an opinion about
Right.
a land you've never seen, people you've never seen,
Yeah.
a whole culture that
Mhm.
you're ignorant to.
They don't
But I think
understand the
about it
culture.
here in the U.S. And I'm not saying by any means am I saying that either side, we said this earlier, has done everything right.
Mhm.
But I think about the times that the U.S. has done the same thing. We it's been a minute, but we think about the times that the U.S. maybe has overreacted or over responded to a
Mhm.
situation where somebody throws a lob at us and we turn around
Mhm.
and really kind of hit them with a heavy hand. And so you get to the point, I think if you're Israel, I don't think it's whether it's right or wrong, I don't think it's totally surprising if this has been going on for hundreds, thousands of years. And then someone pops off and does what happened on October 7th that you
Right.
don't naturally go, okay, I'm going to prove a point here. Like if Mexico just decided tomorrow to just start bombing the hell out of Texas, the U.S. is going to have a pretty heavy-handed response to that.
I don't think they're trying to make a point. I honestly do
Right,
not
but I
think
don't
they're
think
making
that they're
a point.
crazy for feeling that
They are
sense
trying
of
to defend their home.
exactly.
And that's the thing, And I think the people don't understand that. If Israel would cease to exist, and this is the core understanding of people,
Mhm.
there is no other land in the world where Jews can be safe and free.
Yeah.
Not in Europe. We've been there, we've done that. We should know better. I'm talking about myself. Even here in the US, seeing all those students doing whatever they're doing,
Yeah.
I understand. Even as an American citizen, I'm not safe here. It is what it is. I'm being very honest right now.
Yeah.
I'll have to defend myself and my family. Nobody's going to get there to save me.
Yeah.
The only place on planet Earth when those, we're talking about, I think, 8 million Jews, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about 8 million Jews, maybe, that living in that small piece of land. Majority of them, not all of them, but a majority of them, all they want to do is buy a house, buy some car,
Yeah.
have 2, 3 kids, probably more, if God willing, have a vacation every once in a while, and be left alone.
Yeah.
There are songs that we grew up on, people saying, I hope when you're gonna grow up, you never have to serve.
Yeah.
My cousin is 20 years old, was blown up by an RPG. I have a picture of him. He survived, thank God. I have a picture of him when he was born. I came back from boot camp still with my shirt from finishing whatever I finished there, graduated something. And I'm standing there. There's a picture of me holding him. And he was a baby. He was a few months old.
Yeah.
20 years later, the guy does the same thing that I did 20 years later. So
Yeah.
her cousin, her uncle, excuse me, was killed by terrorists. He was in the most specialized unit you can find on planet Earth, basically, was Yamam. And he was killed trying to save little girls in a school because there is a terrorist who killed 3 people prior to that, and he was heading towards that school and was about to kill little girls, and her uncle stopped him and basically sacrificed himself. That's one story out of millions.
Yeah.
The Israeli, it's not Veterans Day, Memorial Day. It's the saddest day that you can think of. Nobody says, walking around in Israel says, Happy Memorial. No, not at all.
Yeah.
We all been touched by it. I don't know how many friends I've lost, how many people I've known, how many people I've been to school with, served with. Doesn't matter. I can't even remember how many people we all lost. And I'm not just one person.
Yeah.
All of those 8 million people had somebody they lost in that period of time of their lifetime. They don't want this, man. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
I cannot find a single person right now in Israel who be like, you know what? I feel like going back to Gaza and kill some people. No, you're not gonna find.
They just want to be left alone.
They want to be left alone.
So let me
man.
ask you this. I've asked you this before in conversation, but for the sake of our listeners, you touched on it a little bit earlier, but I think a lot of people out of ignorance go, why don't you just leave? But you touched on this a minute ago of like, there's really nowhere else to go.
Where they would go?
And I think at some point, if you look over,
It's your home.
If you look over, and we're a Christian podcast, if you look throughout the scripture, or even just in history textbooks, you'll see the number of times that, quote unquote, the people of Israel, the nation of Israel, the Jewish people have been displaced and moved
Spain,
from here to here
Babylon,
to here.
Germany, the whole Europe, Egypt.
Yeah. And so
I keep going. I can keep going.
At some point, you kind of land on this thing, like you touched on earlier, of like this is
the last stand.
This is the hill they're willing to die on, quite
they
literally.
Will.
Like
They will.
This is where we're gonna stay,
and they will.
And so when we get into this whole, like I said, I never wanted this to be like a, here's your options, now choose your side. Yeah. But you touched on this earlier, Alona, when you say, do your research and understand what's actually going on.
Right.
We're blessed to know you guys on a personal level. For maybe someone who doesn't, where do you have any maybe places or websites or something you could
buy a ticket and go there.
Go over there and see what's going on. Okay.
I think you fall in love with Israel when you actually meet Israeli people in Israel. Mm-hmm. Because that's where you feel the culture, and then you see how diverse Israel is.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the gay pride in Israel. You have things that you will never have in Gaza. And so Israel is the place to learn about diversity and see how well we all live in coexistence. Yes, we have bad days when suddenly someone goes rogue, but in general, you have to go to Israel yourself. And it's generally a safer place than going to Gaza.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can go to Gaza. I mean,
I
would encourage those people who will support Palestine or to support any of that. Please buy a ticket and go there. Just buy a ticket, go there.
And
Yeah.
I
Go to the
think,
West Bank.
yeah,
Just go. See what you're supporting, and you feel okay with that, and you feel like this is the right thing. Go ahead. It's your choice.
Yeah.
But you cannot sit here in UCLA or whatever you're sitting Yale
Yeah.
and playing on your iPhone that was made at a sweatshop, talking to me about things you have no clue. You've
yeah,
never
Yeah.
been there. You never met a Palestinian.
yeah,
And those people who were born here, they say that they are descendants of. They don't know what they're talking about.
yeah,
They've never been there. They've never seen it, the barrel, the muzzle pointing in their face. They don't know what they're talking about. They've never been there. They've never lived through this. I
Yeah.
cannot talk about the U.S. military. I cannot talk about U.S. wars. I didn't do a thing in those wars. But I
Yeah.
can talk about Israeli wars all day. I've seen it. I know the people that fought there. I know the people that died there. I've seen the evolution. I've seen the things that we did, putting ourselves and they soldiers are putting themselves at risk every day
hmm,
to make sure that they're not killing civilians.
Yeah.
We never did anything. We would never touch a woman. We would never disrespect a woman. We would
never.
never kill a baby. It is a war and people are dying, but it's never intentional. And that's what I was saying. People are talking about, they're going and they're killing. People are dying because it's a war, but there is no intention behind it. You're
Yeah.
not gonna find a soldier in the Israeli Defense Forces pointing at raping a woman. You're not gonna find it. You know what? And if you will, I promise you, nobody's gonna stand for him there. Nobody's gonna be like, oh yeah, you're fine. No.
Yeah.
People from within will take care of it. They're not gonna let it fly. There is no way. There are things we were raised on protecting each other, on keeping civilians alive. I saved Arab Muslims people. I saved them from burning houses being a cop, from people from gunshot wounds, from people from just medical stuff, from burning cars. I've done it
Yeah.
all. We don't look at that way. I've served with Arab Muslims in the Israel Defense Forces, in the military, in the law enforcement.
Yeah.
They are everywhere. So they can have a good life. They can have a better life than I have, by the way, because they don't have to serve. They volunteer to serve. They don't have
Yeah.
to serve. I had to serve. So they have 3 years. And you know how many of them are doctors? You know how many of them are nurses,
Yeah.
work in pharmacy, universities, schools? They
In
they
the
had nicer
government.
houses than mine. I raided every day houses that were way nicer than mine. I lived in a trailer. Being a captain in the Israeli police force, we lived in a trailer. 5 minutes away from the West Bank. We couldn't afford it. We were both making good money. But I was raiding houses that I could only dream about. Why? Those people had money. They had a good life. You can have a good life in Israel. Go.
It's not something that you can't really buy a ticket for everyone to go to Israel.
Right.
But I would say for the younger generation, we talk a lot about critical thinking and second guessing and just asking questions and
Yeah.
stop being on the sidelines and being, okay, I'll be silent because honestly, the people that we know, the American people that we know, majority of them are like us. We share the same core values, and I mean, if we sit on the sidelines and we don't start asking the critical questions
Mm-hmm.
and meet people, ask Muslims, ask Israeli people, ask everyone you know about this subject, but just learn it a little bit before you stand up for something that you don't even know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many people standing for Palestine or for Hamas, but I mean, Hamas are against the same people that are pro them, you know?
Yeah.
So
There are Americans right now being held hostages.
there
Americans.
By
there are
Hamas.
American,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
So what are we talking about? We got people from Europe, European
Yeah.
people. We got people from Thailand. They took hostages. People from Thailand that were just working there. They were on a working visa and they were working in those fields there.
yeah.
Why are they being killed?
So let me ask you then.
Why?
So for people who are here, because like I think about like if I didn't know you guys, me and Amanda, and we have Joe, there's 0% chance anytime in the next 10 years we're gonna have the ability, more than likely, to be able to go do something like that, to go see it for ourselves.
Right.
For people who are in that boat, they're in college, they're on the college campus. What would you say to them of where they could turn to maybe learn more or find out more. Because, like we said it earlier, if you just go to Google and type in what's happening in Israel, good
You're,
Well,
luck.
yeah,
You know.
you're gonna get
I
lost.
will.
The son of the Hamas,
You can listen to an audio book called "Son of Hamas."
Okay.
That is the actual son of
one of the
one of the Hamas
co-founders.
co-founders. He talks about his life and how he grew up,
Okay.
and how his life changed since he met the Israel. He started working for the Israeli government at some point.
Yeah.
But he talks about it. There's also a Lebanese, well, actually a Christian woman, and I can't remember her name, but I'll send you the link.
Okay.
But she talks about her life in Lebanon and how she was saved. Her and her mother were saved by Israel. And I will highly recommend to listen to other media streams such as Merit Plus. That is that Dr. Phil now has this whole media, and he talks about and gives real information and true information about what's happening there. I'm trying to think. Is the Daily Wire also
Yeah,
the Daily
but
Wire? But
the
also
problem
it's-
is that once it's a U.S. outlet, they're gonna have their.
Their spin on it.
there's
Yeah.
always a
Yeah,
If you're
spin.
gonna have CNN,
Yeah.
I can show you there will be a terror attack in Jerusalem. There's gonna be 3 soldiers who are stabbed to death by a terrorist, and the headline in CNN will be 1 Arab Muslim killed and also also 3 Israeli soldiers.
Yeah.
So what do you understand from that? Oh, probably the Israeli soldiers killed him. No, he stabbed them to death, and one of them actually killed him.
Right.
So I was like, so you're looking at the same picture, but you're talking about different things,
Right.
and this is
Yeah.
where the spin coming in, and this is
Right.
where it's getting me emotional, and I'm gonna be emotional about it because
Yeah.
it's not true. It's like you're spinning the truth
Mhm.
to make it easy for you to do whatever you want to do.
No, and I support you getting emotional about it. It's tough for us to always weigh in because we don't have the personal experience with it that y'all have. But I will say, for someone who lives on this side of it, it is quite frustrating to even myself try and do my own research.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what to believe anymore. And if I'm being totally honest about it, it reaches a point where you just throw up your hands and go, okay,
Yeah.
to hell with it. I don't know what to do now. Everything I'm reading, it's either they're not even kind of the same story.
No.
It's one thing happened, but I'm hearing 2 totally different versions that don't even come close to lining up.
Right.
And I don't have the ability to piece that together without going to see it for myself.
Right.
So I just leave it alone.
Right.
And I think that's for so many people.
And I think majority of those people, so there are good people in the U.S. that under the impression that they are doing the right thing because they are so compassionate, and they are being sold on that narrative that Israel is oppressing them. The Israel is doing this. Israel is killing all those kids and babies and all of that. Where are those numbers? Where are they getting those numbers? You know where they're getting those numbers from? From the Hamas. So you are getting number of people being killed by the Hamas. They're not going to be truthful. They need your money. The only reason they are still alive and kicking is because they are getting money. By the way, a lot of it comes from here, from the U.S.
Yeah.
The people who are the founders of the Hamas, they don't live in Gaza, by the way.
Yeah.
You know where they live at? Qatar.
Okay.
You know how much they worth? Shoot a number.
It's got to be in the billions.
Billions.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. We're talking about 3 to 4 people that worth billions. But the people in Gaza, a lot of them are poor. And I feel bad for them. And I feel bad for them being in that situation. But Israel is not the enemy. It's not Israeli. It's not they are not the ones who are supposed to go into Gaza and make it all better.
Yeah. They left Gaza.
They left Gaza.
They love Gaza
Yeah.
so they can make it better.
You go. You do whatever you want to have your own country. Have your own country.
Do whatever you want.
Do whatever you want to do.
The result of that.
Yes.
You want your own water? Go get your own water. You want electricity? Go get your own electricity. Do all of that. But you can't. That's what frustrates me when you see the people playing both sides of it. It's like, we're independent. We want the first thing that gets to my mind is like, oh, Palestine will be free from the river to the sea. You are calling for the death of all the people, basically from the river to the sea, which talking about 8 million people. So you want to have a country, so you're gonna kill 8 million people, kids, babies, whatever, and you're probably
Yeah.
gonna rape all of them just for the sake of it, like you did on October 7th.
All religions.
All religions, by the way,
From the river to
Christians,
the
Yeah,
sea.
it's
Jews.
not, and I think that's another thing. A lot of people that we hear, we're taught in U.S. schools, Israel equals Jewish, and so we hear this, we think it's this Islamic
Oh,
terrorist group versus
no,
the Jewish people, and it's not. It's not
no,
that simple. So I
not at
think for a
all.
lot of people, and I say this, a lot of our audience, I'd say at least 75% is a Christian audience. What would you guys say to them of what can, if there is anything, what can they be doing here? Okay, I can't go to Israel. I'm going to try and be more diverse in my understanding of what's going on over there. But day to day here, what would you say to those guys who are like, do we? I don't think this would be a good idea, but do you have your pro-Israel marches just like you have your pro-Palestine marches, or do you just like, what would you say to those people who are listening who are like, I want to do something, but I don't know what to do?
I think the only thing that the U.S. needs to do, and that's my personal humble opinion, nobody asking for U.S. to send troops over there. Nobody's asking for money from people, which is nice when they do it. The only thing that the Israeli people are asking for, it's let us defend ourselves. That's all they're asking for. They're not
Yeah.
asking for give outs. They're not begging for money. They're not doing any of that. All they're asking is like, let me do my job. Stop interrupting with everything I do and everything I
Yeah.
say. Just let me be. And that's the thing. People, the same way as we have the Constitution here, you have the right to defend yourself.
Mhm.
Those people have the right to defend themselves. That's all there is.
Yeah.
If you coming and attacking them, just let them defend themselves. And I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
People should just let them be.
Yeah.
And if you want to support Israel, that's good. But even if you support Israel, please do your research. Please read about it.
Right.
Please understand what
Yeah.
you're supporting. No, you're not supporting genocide because Israel is not supporting genocide. I'm not supporting genocide.
No.
If Israel would commit genocide, trust me, I'll be the first one to turn my back on. But they will never do it.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
they felt genocide. Those people are
Yeah.
never not gonna go and, kill other people for the sake of killing them. That's not how it works.
We've both been in the IDF, so we know the culture from within, and we were always taught to respect. We don't initiate these kind of things.
Right.
We don't. But if we didn't have the IDF, there probably would be no Israel, and we're just the frontliners on this,
What's it
This
called?
is-
Israeli Defense Forces. It's
Yeah.
not
Yes.
assaulting, attacking.
Yes.
It's
Our agenda
defense.
is to defend the Israeli citizens from all religions. Their agenda is, as long as they're Israelis
to eradicate Jews.
here,
Simple as that.
we will not accept any country. We want to be here instead of them, and they all should die. And I think that's the biggest thing. There's no one to negotiate with.
Yeah.
That's a good
You're
point.
negotiating
Yeah.
with someone that wants you dead. And if you're
there's
not dead,
there's never going to be a
there's
peace
no
that they're
There's
okay
no
with.
end.
there's no conversation,
let
and
me-
you're still trying to be the good guy and be like,
Yeah.
okay, let's try to navigate through this. And I don't know, I think Israel has a lot of tolerance for whatever happened.
But it almost feels like they're running out of options a little bit. Of like,
That's what it
at
is.
some
They are.
point, like you can only offer so much, And we touched on this just a minute ago, but you brought it up and made me think of this question. Let's just say, for the sake of the argument, you give them what they're asking for,
Which is-
and the nation of Israel says, okay, we're going to relocate to wherever, who knows, right?
Yeah.
But we're leaving Palestine. It's all yours, from the river to the sea. You get whatever you want. Do you believe wherever the Jewish people, or I say Jewish, wherever the people of Israel move, it's only a matter of time before it starts there again?
Yeah. 100%.
I mean, the next step will be
We've seen
Europe.
it. We've seen it. So here's an example. Look everywhere else. Everywhere else. Honestly, it blows my mind. I don't understand. It's beyond my understanding. Everywhere the Jews went, they're not welcome there.
There's always been persecution.
There's always
and
been
attacks.
prosecution.
Yeah.
So Russia, the pogroms, Germany, Poland, Spain, you pick it. Now Europe. Now people in Europe are afraid. Sweden, France,
Yeah.
Germany, you name it, all of those countries, people are afraid to say
Yeah.
that they are Jews. They are. So where is your freedom of religion? So where is your freedom of being
No,
a
for sure.
person? You can't have.
Yeah, and I bring that up because that's the thing I hear a lot. It was like, okay, well, why not just concede and leave? And it's like, one, we wouldn't have y'all, Israel wouldn't
But
have
why
anywhere to
would they?
go, and
Right.
two, even if they did, wherever they went, it feels like the attack and the hatred just follows them. So wherever they would even land, and so it goes back to like we said earlier, the nation of Israel has just decided this is the hill that they're willing to stand on, and
Right.
they're
That's
not
the last.
But
That's the
it's
last
also,
resort.
and it's also not an attack just on Jews. Jews
Right.
are the first step. This is an attack against the Western
Western
values.
cultures.
Yeah.
Western values
Yeah.
are in Israel, but they're also here in the United States.
Well, and I think that's so important for people to understand. You know,
Yes.
we've as Americans, I think, have even forgotten. It's been a minute, but you know, we had the attacks in September of 2001, and shortly thereafter, although I'm sure there was a lot of bigotry and religious and racial, you know, injustices done, there was also this understanding of there is a group of people in the world who don't want anything to do with us, and they actually want us not here.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, but we have a whole ocean to separate us from that. You guys have
And a
It's not
huge
even
military,
a wall. It's
and
a
you had a huge
fence.
military.
yeah, we have this understanding of like Americans felt untouchable, and then everything happened in 2001. I was 5 years old, so I
Yeah.
don't remember any of that.
Nobody's untouchable. That's the thing.
But we America kind of had this idea, and so here we are. We fast forward 23 years later. You have young people my age who don't know. We don't have, and even I don't really fully have this understanding of America has these vulnerable. Like, there's not people out there that hate us like that because
Because they've
we're
never seen it.
untouchable. We've never
Yeah.
seen it. And so you see what you were talking about earlier. You see these kids. We see a lot on social media. Kids on college campuses. The younger audience.
They're naive.
Having this, this
They're naive.
the naiveness, this ignorance of. You said it perfectly. Where to next?
Mm-hmm.
If they win this war with Israel one day,
What do you
it's
think
not
is gonna
like
happen?
they're just going to get their land
No.
and then be done.
No.
Yeah.
It-
They say it out loud, though. It's not like they're hiding
Yeah.
their
No.
agenda.
If you read their,
You can see they want
they want
the
Sharia.
Sharia law
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. And whoever is not going to comply to that law,
Yeah.
Which is Europe, which is the U.S.,
Yeah.
which is Canada, which is all of those places.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's not a thing between. It's not against religion.
mm-hmm.
It's. I think for people that here in the U.S., unless you're doing very certain jobs, but even then, you've never seen true evil. People that
No, for
went
sure.
overseas probably have seen evil, true
Yeah.
evil.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're there, and I can tell you from my perspective, I remember those days driving in my truck on my way to work, and my house, it separates, it's a couple miles between me and my jurisdiction where I used to work.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm driving, I feel this heavy, bad feeling inside of me. And the more I get into this, the more it gets worse. You see this pure evil, the amount of violence, the amount of brutality, the way they are raising their kids, the way they are treating their women, the
Yeah.
way they're treating their animals. I don't want to go into details of
Right.
of what I've seen there, what they do to each other, not to Jews, to each other, just on some disagreement on land, on some disagreement on money, just within that, the hatred. It's something that people haven't seen here yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
we're
will
just
see
ignorant to
that
it.
if they gotta keep bringing that and keep embracing that. If you're gonna be in those colleges and you gotta keep saying free Palestine and bring those people over here, you're gonna get what you're asking
Yeah.
for. You will, and you know what? And maybe not be my lifetime, or maybe it will be, but I've seen that
Yeah.
end of it. I know what they are capable of.
Yeah. And if you don't see it, you don't know
You-
what you're for.
You're looking
You
at
know.
I think that people are looking at the world from their perspective. So
Right.
Yeah.
you're looking at something, you'd be like, I would never do that. You're looking from your own kindness, from your, whatever, I'm just gonna turn my other cheek. Oh, he moved the fence a little bit here. I'm just gonna call the city and I'm gonna complain about it. It doesn't work that way over there.
Yeah.
You moved something, you're gonna get shot at the same day. That's the
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah.
I telling you, this is the reality. So people are like, no, we can come to an agreement. There is no agreement.
Yeah.
There is no one to talk to. If you want to kill me, and I just want to live,
Hmm.
where does
Someone's gonna die.
that's
Unfortunately, it
that's
just
the
is what it is.
so
Yeah.
that's the essence of the conflict.
And
Yeah.
I
they're
want to
very,
live,
yeah.
and you want to kill me.
I have to kill you, or myself die.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
And
so
they're very smart. Like, I will give them that. They understand how the Western world is looking at this, and
Yeah.
they understand body count. And,
Yeah, they know
they
how to make the
understand that
headlines.
people
Emotions.
think,
Mhm.
yes, they understand that people think that the more body counts you have on one side, that's probably the side that we need to defend.
yeah, because they're
Which
oppressed.
is exactly what we see.
That's
Is
exactly what you see. Yeah,
And
100%.
they purposely will give you the higher numbers, even
Bring-
if they were the ones that putting their people in harm's way.
Hmm.
But they understand that that's what works, and they make videos of people dying and kids dying, and then you suddenly see
It's fake.
they make
That's
fake
fake.
videos. It's like Bollywood over there. They're just making
Yeah.
things
It's
because
called Gaza Wood.
it's called Gazawood. It's like they have their own films
Yeah.
Their
that they're making
propaganda is
because
winning.
they understand
Yeah.
that
100%.
the Western world is very emotional, so they will not
Yeah.
accept that.
People are naive.
But it's not reality.
Yeah. So let me ask you guys this thing, going back to, and we'll wrap up here because I know we've been going for a minute. we deal with, we wake up October 7th. Everything's going on. You're processing that over the next couple of days. Walk us through your journey to get back home, because I understand it wasn't easy to leave. Like, it wasn't like, oh man, we got to catch the next flight out of here. Like, the airport was closed for a while, if I remember correctly. Like, walk us through your journey to get home.
Well, I really wanted to get back home to get my daughter out of that nightmare.
Yeah.
That was my goal from the minute it
We had
started.
this is where we have different
Yes,
perspectives.
David
Well,
wanted
and
to
your
stay.
daughter was, what?
3.
3 at the time? Okay.
She's 3, yeah. So, and I mean, she was terrified because this is the first time that we experienced war. It's not missiles. Suddenly, missiles didn't seem that
Too bad.
frightening. It doesn't seem too bad because, yeah, they send them, but what are the chances that it's going to hit directly to your bomb shelter? But now you have these terrorists that can open and they come with RPGs and you're defenseless. It's not like
People in Israel don't carry firearms, by the way.
yeah, we don't fight.
There's no
carry
second
firearms.
cons-
So
there's
how
no
how am
second
I
amendment
supposed to protect my daughter with
That's
a
a whole other
knife?
conversation.
Yeah, that's a whole different
Yeah.
conversation,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Don't get me started on
I
that.
mean, I just wanted to get out of there
Yeah.
as soon as
Oh,
possible.
tell about the 2 weeks. So for the 2 or 3 weeks, she slept inside of a bomb shelter,
Yes,
which is
my
basically a 1-bedroom. It's just 1-bedroom.
Yeah.
That's all there is. It's
It's
just one
concrete.
bedroom.
Like the
Concrete.
walls are like this thick, and then the window is like so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like
just
heavy metal. So
um,
she slept with our daughter, her mother, her father, her sister,
all in a small room.
2 of her kids, her husband. So we're talking about 8 to 10 people. They were staying in that one room,
Wow.
sleeping on the floor, on carpets and pillows and stuff like that, making sure the kids are okay. And in the meantime, you hear sirens go off and you hear explosions because tanks were basically from here to the road, like the next house we had.
Yeah.
And I'm in the meantime running and gunning, try to figure out what's going on with our little town there. And we have sleeping with my radio on
Yeah.
Wow.
to make sure. And that's the reality that people don't understand, the impossible reality of what people go through. And that's how we were raised, unfortunately. And that's how those kids being raised.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going to be the end of it, but
Yeah.
she
I
had a
just-
very hard time.
I had a very difficult time. I wanted out of there. David
Yeah.
was on the team of our settlement protecting
Like
my
this, like
hometown.
response team, whatever.
It's like a response team. And suddenly, like, I knew that they're gonna cancel our flights. It was like a Delta flight that was canceled.
And another one.
And
Another
then
one.
they, we had a KLM flight that was canceled also. So there was like only one airline that actually took the risk to
The
fly.
Israeli allowed,
It's an Israeli one, so it's
and
called
and
Elad.
they wanted like 10,
It was so
10
expensive.
ten thousand dollars for
You had to be very wealthy
Wow.
nobody can
to
afford
leave
that.
it Israel.
Wow.
So it was a struggle, and all that time David was not at home. I was trying to figure out what's going on with my cousin. Two of my cousins were in the Nova Festival.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where they came in and slaughtered.
So they will take women, rape them. While they're raping them, they're cutting them. While they're cutting them, they're killing them.
Yeah.
That's
So
what
he
they
was
did.
at that
There's
party when
videos of
that
that.
happened. After a few hours, I was calling him. After a few hours, he answered the phone. He told me, I remember that sentence clearly. He told me, Alona, I can't believe this just happened. They were shooting at us. I'm in the hospital right now, but I'm fine. I just picked up a few injured people from the party.
Yeah. We saw him the day
And
before. We
and
went to see him on
yeah, we
Friday
saw him
night.
a day before. He told us
Yeah.
that he's going to a party, and I'm like, come on, we came here after 6
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
And he went to that party, and then we heard that the party that got attacked, and
Oh
so I
my
was trying to
goodness.
reach him, and then I learned that another cousin of mine was there. They both survived. Going back to your question, yeah, we were trying to. I was trying to leave. There was one
Yeah.
point when David told me, "You're going back. I'm staying here,"
How
and
did
we
that?
booked the flight.
How do you think
How
that
did
turned
How did
out?
that go over?
I was looking, and I was supposed to fly through Europe, which was not a good.
Yeah.
Just me and my daughter, and I'm looking at 6 suitcases and my daughter a night before, and my mom just looks at me, and I'm just crying, like, how am I supposed to do this by myself? And then she called David, and she's like, David, you're not. You're leaving the team, but you're going back with my daughter, and that's when we decided to go back as a
Yeah.
family, and I canceled the flight, and we still spent time in Europe.
Probably one of the hardest decisions I had to make.
Yeah, but since
Yeah.
then, David is not the same. I am not the same. Our daughter is okay. I don't think she realized
I
that
think
she
she's fine.
experienced
Yeah.
her
She doesn't
first
really
war.
know yet. Yeah.
No.
She's still really young.
She's
She did is she saw me crying and she put her hand on me and she said, "Mommy, you're okay." But that's all that she's probably gonna remember. But you know,
So you say you guys are different now.
we're
100%.
so
What for
different.
you, Alona? What do you feel like is different now?
My perspective. The first thing that I did when I came back, I left my job. I felt like I was on the wrong journey. I felt like all the things that I felt like were troubling
Yeah.
didn't mean anything anymore.
Yeah.
And my focus turned to my family, my daughter. I knew that you never know what tomorrow is going to bring. And so I decided to find something that is more giving back to our community, just being more involved because that made me understand how much we, the people, need each other.
Yeah.
And also, I learned from a lot of our Christian friends how much our core values are aligned. So I learned to respect and understand also Christianity and how together, and I always say that together we are a team a good team that can fight this evil force. And it's
Yeah.
not fighting a certain religion, it's just fighting evil. And I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
biggest point that changed in my mind. And also, I learned not to be silent. I was always the one on the side. I didn't
Yeah.
want to get into arguments, confrontation. I never liked it.
Yeah.
And so it was easier for me not to say anything out loud. And now I feel like every one of us needs to start saying things out
Yeah.
loud and having these critical conversations because otherwise, I mean, people will not know. You wouldn't know
No, for sure.
what's happening.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's our duty to talk about what's going on in Israel and how we are all a family and share the same core values and we should really do
Yeah.
something together. So
Okay. Yeah. What about you, David? What do you feel like has changed since all that for you?
I think for me it was some sort of a wake up call. Um, Being here for 6 years, I think I kind of lost sight of what's really important is, and how easy it all can be taken away from you,
Mm,
very brutally too. I realized that unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, it is my path, and try to defend what's right, then it's my right. So I don't care if people agree or disagree with that, but
yeah.
that's what I think is right. Um, I don't think I missed Israel prior to that point.
Yeah.
I think I was doing pretty good here, and I felt like we were making progress, and I finally kind of felt like it's turning to be a home. I think,
Yeah.
but when we came back, for me, it started changing a little bit because what I realized being there, it's how natural the chaos is for me, and how natural and how comfortable I feel in that chaos,
Yeah.
and being around people that I can talk to them the same language, and I'm not talking about English or Hebrew. They understand
Yeah.
my they understand everything. Everything I say, everything I do. We
Yeah.
just talking the same thing. And for me it was kind of like it left for me it was very hard to leave.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
ain't gonna lie to you, I'll be honest.
No, do.
I
Yeah.
I cried when I left.
Yeah.
I didn't want to leave because I felt like it was our time to try to do something, to stand for something.
Yeah.
But at the same time, um, I think it's the first time when my duty to God and country kind of I had to put that aside and put my family
Yeah.
in front of me. And I think that was the hard. This is the first time I've done it, and it was the hardest decision I ever made because
Yeah.
this is the first time I've done it.
Yeah. Well, and I would imagine you talked a lot earlier about kind of that upbringing. You're as passionate and in love with your country of Israel as I would be with America,
Yeah,
if not more so. And so I don't envy that, and I don't think anyone listening envies that decision that you have to make. I think if there's anything that someone could say, it would be, I think, things like this, what we're doing today, definitely doesn't fill the void of what you probably feel of like needing to go and be a part of the defense and be a part of the solution. But there is such a vast majority of Americans who are just living peacefully in ignorance. And you said it earlier, if we didn't know you guys, obviously when this episode's not happening, this conversation's not happening. And the number of conversations I've been able to have with people that I go to church with, people that I go to school with, people or at school, uh, work with, church with. I think I said those two. I don't remember. Work, church, other friends, family members. I'm a fifth generation Tennessean. So like when we say we don't know, vacation for us was Panama City. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we never left the country. And so if there's any hope and like what are you doing now since you're not over there? I think if there's anything, it's that. It's the bravery and the willingness to have the conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and to share what you do know to combat that ignorance, to combat. I'm not saying that tomorrow everything will just be better and the free Palestine movement will end, but it will only slow it down in America when Americans start to really learn and understand what it is they're promoting, whether that's Israel or Palestine, until we know what's going on over there.
Right.
And y'all's story, y'all's not only experience through your high school years and through your younger years, but then being there when it all went off again just brings a new perspective
Right.
to what we don't know. And so I would just say, if there's anything I could say, man, it would be that that's something that you can offer that I don't know anyone else that can. But
I'll say this: plenty of people reached out to us while we were there.
Mm-hmm.
Plenty of people since then, were trying to reach out. So we met very good, not met, but it brought us a little bit closer to some people.
Yeah.
And even with you guys,
Yeah.
it brought us
Yeah.
it brought us a little bit closer. And usually, difficulties bring people together. And I think, unfortunately, we're probably gonna need more of that here in the U.S. to bring all of us together. But
Yeah.
that's just the way it is, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the act of kindness that you guys showed us, sometimes we didn't even expect it. I mean,
not
Yeah.
at all.
help came from a direction that we didn't even know existed, and
Yeah.
and we're very thankful for that.
We
Yeah.
are.
But we saw how like doing the right thing and being kind can really help in a lot of situations. And I think this is the path that leads us to tell this story, because we really want to do good
Mm-hmm.
and do what's right.
Yeah. There is
For
no
everyone's
hatred in
sake.
our hearts.
There's
That's
no
the thing.
hatred.
You're right.
There is nothing like
Children
that.
should not be involved in this, and unfortunately, they are.
Right.
And so I feel like as adults, we need to fight this back as much as we can, so this cycle of
Yeah.
violence would just end.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And you talked about like the kindness that you guys were shown from people who were here.
Most of them were Christians.
That
All of them were Christians.
that-
All of them.
Well, you
All
guys.
of
I
them.
mean, we live in Tennessee. It's there's a ton of us around here.
Thank
but
God for that.
I will say, like for us, the generosity to those around us, at least for me and Amanda, we didn't even view it as generosity. We just viewed it as like, this is just the expectation of, I know you now. Like if I know you beyond your first and last name, there's an expectation that if something like this happens, this is just what we do, you know?
Yeah.
You talk about like what you guys were kind of taught growing up over there of like defending your country is what we do. For us here, not everyone, of course, but a lot of us here, there's just this understanding of like, now that I know you and you know me, there's just an understanding if my kid gets sick and I have to go live at the hospital with her, I expect someone's going to mow my yard. Like, it just is what it is, you know, or vice versa.
Because we have the same core values.
Yeah, and
that's the
you
thing.
touched on that earlier. So I kind of want to shift to something lighthearted before we end, so we're not just super
Yeah.
heavy and then we end. I want to ask you guys something, and I think this is a funny one. Me and Amanda were trying to think of funny questions to ask you guys. What is something when you actually moved here and were like full time in the U.S., whether that was in the Midwest or down here in Tennessee, that shocked you about like something Americans did or American culture that maybe you weren't prepared for, that you think is kind of funny or weird or
I
like
have
why do you guys
so
do
many
Oh
that?
my gosh,
stories.
Let's hear some
Alana
of them.
has so many of them.
Well, one main thing is that I went to a baby shower, I think,
Okay.
and they had like fancy plates.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's plates. I took one of the plates and I wanted to serve myself some food. And she's like, no, 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 this is just decoration. And I'm like,
Yeah, the decor plates like the fine
I was just
china
like,
and
so,
stuff. Yeah.
so you don't have that in Israel. I mean,
Yeah.
it needs to be practical. If there's a plate, you're probably going to
Probably
eat
gonna
in
eat
it.
with
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Um,
Okay.
Another funny one was, I don't know if I should say it in a podcast, but like when you deliver a baby and you need to give a sample, they give you a sticker to put on that cup.
Uh-huh.
In Israel, they give you the cup with a sticker. So I didn't know what the purpose of the sticker was. So I just put it here and
nice. Okay.
On your shirt.
and
Nice.
Like
the
an name
nurse
tag.
started laughing. She's like, "Actually, this goes on your cup." And I turned red. But these are like little
Yeah.
culture differences that I was like, "Oh, why couldn't you put it on the cup
Yeah.
before that?"
Yeah. I know one, David, you and me were talking about this the other day. We were talking about who all we know, like kind of in our area. And you guys are the closest people I know. And you've gotten to know more people that live around here than we have. And
Cultural thing.
you were asking me that the other day, and I was like, yeah, we don't really do that around here, you know? We
In
do.
Israel, it's a very like
Yeah, we have
Open
to know,
house,
Yeah,
what's
we have
called.
to know
Yeah.
all our neighbors. I mean, this is how you take care of each other also. Like
Yeah.
you kind of like build a community around you. But yes, I mean, I remember the first day that David approached you and said hi.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's very important to us,
Yeah.
and I mean, I feel like this is something that maybe Americans should take from us, just talk to your neighbors, get to know everyone, have
Yeah.
the children play.
You know what gets me when people do like play dates for kids
Yeah.
and it is set time, like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Birthdays without
Birthdays.
music.
Yeah.
You said it. Like I was like, and there's no music. Nobody's playing music. The kids are not dancing. I was like,
Yeah.
Do you guys?
how's that a party?
Do they do big gender reveals
Yeah.
over in
No, not
Israel?
no,
No,
but
they started doing gender reveals
Okay.
in Israel.
maybe.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
did.
yeah, they kind
Okay.
of took that from.
Yes.
But they're doing different things. So there is a Brit or Brita. So it's like a big celebration when a boy or a girl. It started with the boys, but then it turned to
Okay.
be with girls too. So it's like a secondary wedding. It's like 300, 400 people showing up to see your
Oh
baby.
my goodness.
Yeah, and
But that
everybody.
happens after. There's no baby shower like pre-birth.
Oh,
No.
Not to
okay.
because
Yeah.
you don't want to jinx it. You know,
Yeah,
you want to
yeah,
make
Yeah,
sure
so
that the baby.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
another thing. You're not telling people that you're pregnant for the first 3
months.
months, and yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
we had 2 baby showers with Joe because and hear me out because
We were invited to one.
my family wanted to do one, but my friends wanted to do one that was more fun. My family wanted to do one that was like very like American traditional, you know, like it was women only. None of
Okay.
the guys
Okay, that's
came.
not the
My
one we did.
grandparents were there, all that, and they did like the all the formal stuff. And then I think the one y'all came to was
Yeah.
the one my friends threw for us.
Yes. That was awesome.
And so we had 2 baby showers, and then we had the baby shower, the second one, and then we had the gender reveal party.
Mm-hmm.
So we had 3 where we found out where we told everyone if it was a boy or a girl.
Oh, that's the one that we went
and
to.
so we had 3 parties just before she was born.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So yeah, but
Yeah.
anyway, thank
Yep.
you guys for
Thank
this
you.
conversation.
Thank you for
being
having us.
for being honest, vulnerable, transparent, and I know some of those things aren't always the easiest to talk about.
No.
But I think it's important, like you said, Alona, it's important that we talk about them.
Yeah.
To hopefully educate, battle ignorance, all those kinds of things. But I want to thank you guys for listening. And then, like we said at the beginning of the episode, Alona is a musician, so we'll have a link in the description for how to listen to that, stream it, view it, all those kinds of things. Like, follow, subscribe, all of that. If you haven't liked or followed or subscribed our channel, do that now. We greatly appreciate that. And we will talk to you guys next episode. See ya.